Welcome to World of the Jungle, where adventure, courage, and heartwarming stories come to life. If you love exciting tales about animals, nature, and powerful life lessons, then you're in the right place. Our channel brings you amazing stories filled with action, kindness, and valuable morals that inspire both kids and adults. From brave horses to wild jungle creatures, every story is crafted to entertain and teach important values. Don't miss out on our latest videos, filled with thrilling moments and unforgettable characters. Hit the subscribe button now and become part of our growing family. By subscribing, you'll never miss an update, and you'll always have fresh, engaging content to enjoy. Turn on the notification bell so you're the first to watch our new uploads. Your support helps us create more incredible stories just for you. So, are you ready for an exciting journey into the world of animals and adventure? Subscribe now, and let's explore together. On a long and dusty road stretching through the countryside, a ruthless biker revved his engine, enjoying the roar of his motorcycle as he sped through the open fields. Dressed in a black leather jacket, with a rugged appearance and an air of arrogance, he was the type who found amusement in troublemaking. As he rode past a peaceful ranch, his sharp eyes landed on something that caught his interest: a magnificent Mustang horse grazing near a wooden fence. The horse stood tall, its muscular frame glowing under the golden sunlight. Its mane flowed gracefully as it flicked its tail, its deep, intelligent eyes scanning the surroundings. The Mustang was a creature of pure strength and beauty, a symbol of freedom and power, untouched by the cruelty of the world. But the biker, lacking any appreciation for such grace, saw it as nothing more than an opportunity for mischief. Slowing his motorcycle to a stop, he smirked as he took off his gloves and stepped off his bike. His boots crunched against the dry ground as he approached the unsuspecting horse. With a twisted sense of amusement, he wondered how the animal would react if he gave it a sudden, forceful kick. Would it jump? Would it panic? The thought entertained him. Without hesitation, he lifted his heavy boot and swung his leg, delivering a sharp, heartless kick to the Mustang's side. The impact sent a ripple through the horse's strong body, and it neighed loudly in pain and shock, stepping backward in fear and confusion. The biker laughed cruelly, satisfied with the chaos he had caused. He found joy in disturbing the peace, in showing dominance over creatures that couldn't fight back. What he didn't realize, however, was that he was not alone. From the other side of the fence, a pair of piercing eyes had been watching his every move. The Mustang's owner, a seasoned rancher named Jake, had witnessed everything, and if there was one thing Jake would never tolerate, it was cruelty toward animals, especially his beloved Mustang. Unaware of the trouble he had just invited upon himself, the biker prepared to leave, still chuckling at his own actions. But before he could mount his motorcycle, a firm and commanding voice echoed through the air, stopping him in his tracks. "Hey, what do you think you're doing?" The biker froze, turning his head slowly toward the source of the voice. His amusement faded as he saw Jake marching toward him, his posture strong and his expression deadly serious. The biker had no idea that his little act of cruelty was about to have serious consequences. The biker, a man hardened by years of reckless living, had always enjoyed causing trouble. With a smirk on his face, he strutted toward the Mustang horse, his heavy boots crunching against the dry ground. The magnificent creature stood peacefully near the wooden fence, completely unaware of the danger approaching. Its chestnut coat gleamed in the sunlight, its muscles rippling beneath its sleek skin. It was a picture of grace, strength, and freedom, everything the biker lacked. But the man wasn't here to admire the horse's beauty. His mind was filled with nothing but cruel amusement. He had never been the kind to respect animals. To him, they were just dumb beasts, meant for labor or sport. With no reason other than his twisted sense of entertainment, he raised his boot, aimed at the Mustang's side, and delivered a forceful, ruthless kick. The impact was harsh and sudden. A dull, sickening thud echoed through the quiet ranch as the biker's boot connected with the horse's ribs. The Mustang let out a loud, startled neigh, its powerful body flinching from the unexpected blow. It stumbled slightly, its hooves digging into the dirt as it tried to regain balance. Pain shot through its side, confusion filling its deep brown eyes. It had never known such cruelty before, never felt an attack so senseless. And yet, the biker laughed. A cold, heartless chuckle escaped his lips as he stepped back, watching the horse react. He found its discomfort amusing, its pain entertaining. To him, it was nothing more than a game. He clapped his hands together, smirking, proud of his actions. "Not so tough now, are you?" he sneered, as if expecting some kind of response from the animal. The Mustang, still trembling slightly, flicked its ears back. It didn't understand why this stranger had hurt it, but it knew one thing for sure. It wanted nothing to do with him. It took a few cautious steps away, nostrils flaring, tail swishing in nervous agitation. But even as it distanced itself, the biker remained standing there, reveling in his cruelty, as if waiting to see if the horse would react further. What he didn't know was that his cruel act had not gone unnoticed. Just beyond the fence, hidden in the shadows of a tall oak tree, a man had been watching everything. The Mustang's owner, Jake, had seen it all, every heartless move, every smug expression, and every ounce of malice behind the biker's actions. Jake was a man of patience, but when it came to his animals, there were lines that should never be crossed. His Mustang was more than just a horse. It was a companion, a creature he had raised with care and respect. And now, some ruthless outsider had dared to hurt it for nothing more than a moment of sick pleasure. The laughter of the biker faded as Jake stepped forward. His boots landed firmly on the ground, his expression dark and unwavering. The rancher was not a man who let injustice slide, and today would be no exception. "Hey!" Jake's voice rang out, sharp and commanding, slicing through the air like a whip. The biker froze. His smirk wavered as he turned toward the voice, and for the first time he realized he was in trouble. As the ruthless biker stood laughing at the Mustang's reaction, he remained blissfully unaware that he was not alone. Just beyond the fence, partially hidden by the shadows of a large oak tree, a pair of sharp eyes had been watching his every move. Those eyes belonged to Jake, the owner of the magnificent Mustang, a man who had spent years raising and caring for his horses with patience, love, and respect. Jake was a seasoned rancher, a man of quiet strength and firm principles. His tanned skin, weathered by years under the sun, bore the marks of a hard-working life. His hands, calloused from years of handling ropes, saddles, and reins, clenched into fists as he observed the cruel scene unfolding before him. He had been tending to some tools in the barn when the distant sound of a roaring motorcycle had caught his attention. It wasn't unusual for travelers to pass by his land, but something about this particular biker had set off an instinctive sense of unease. Stepping out into the open, he had seen the stranger approach his Mustang, a horse he had raised from a young foal. The Mustang was no ordinary horse. It was a symbol of strength, resilience, and untamed spirit. Jake had spent years training it, earning its trust, and watching it grow into the powerful yet gentle creature it was today. But now, in a matter of seconds, all that peace had been disturbed by one man's reckless cruelty. From his vantage point, Jake saw everything: the biker's sneer, the unnecessary malice in his actions, and worst of all, the sheer enjoyment he took in causing pain. The sight made Jake's blood boil. His muscles tensed and his jaw clenched as he watched the Mustang recoil from the kick, its confused and pained eyes searching for comfort. Jake inhaled deeply, forcing himself to remain calm. He had dealt with troublemakers before, rowdy cowboys, reckless drifters, and men who thought their strength gave them the right to harm the defenseless. But this was different. This was personal. His Mustang was more than just an animal. It was a companion, a part of his life, and no one had the right to harm it. The biker, lost in his moment of twisted amusement, had no idea that he had crossed a line that should never have been crossed. He had no idea that the man watching him was not the type to let such cruelty go unpunished. Jake took a slow step forward, his boots making a firm impression in the dry dirt. His eyes, once filled with calm patience, now held the intensity of a storm brewing on the horizon. His presence, though silent for now, carried a weight that could be felt even before he spoke. The biker chuckled again, still oblivious. But the moment Jake's voice finally rang out, deep and commanding, the air seemed to shift. "Hey!" It was not just a call, it was a warning. The biker's smirk faded as he turned his head, and for the first time he realized someone had been watching everything. The cruel laughter of the biker still echoed in the air as he stood beside the Mustang, admiring the discomfort he had caused. His smirk was one of twisted satisfaction, his hands resting on his hips as he took in the sight of the startled horse stepping back in pain and confusion. To him, it was just another act of amusement. One more moment of reckless entertainment in his lawless life. But what the biker failed to realize was that his cruel fun had not gone unnoticed. Just a few yards away, standing tall near the wooden fence, was a man who had seen everything. His name was Jake, the owner of the Mustang, a seasoned rancher with years of experience working with animals and handling troublemakers alike. And right now his sharp blue eyes were locked onto the biker with a look that could freeze a man in his tracks. Jake was a man of few words but firm actions. His entire life had been spent raising and training horses, and he believed in treating them with the same respect one would give a friend. The Mustang that had just been kicked wasn't just another horse. It was one he had raised from birth, a creature he had cared for with patience and trust. Seeing it hurt, not by accident but out of sheer cruelty, made his blood boil. Without hesitation, Jake stepped forward. His boots landed heavily on the dry dirt, the sound alone enough to break the biker's amusement. "Hey!" he called out, his deep, commanding voice cutting through the air like a whip. The biker flinched slightly, his smirk wavering as he turned around. He hadn't expected company. His eyes met Jake's, and for the first time, a flicker of uncertainty crossed his face. He could tell, just by looking at the rancher's expression, that he had made a serious mistake. Jake wasted no time. Before the biker could react, Jake closed the distance between them in a few quick strides. With a strong grip, he seized the biker by the collar of his leather jacket and yanked him forward. The sudden force caught the man off guard, and he stumbled slightly, his confidence disappearing in an instant. "You think that's funny?" Jake growled, his voice low but full of controlled anger. His grip tightened, his calloused fingers digging into the biker's jacket as he pulled him close, their faces now mere inches apart. "Kicking a defenseless animal for fun?" The biker, caught off guard, tried to pull away, but Jake's grip was like iron. "Hey man, take it easy," he muttered, suddenly realizing he had picked the wrong place to stir up trouble. "Take it easy?" Jake repeated, his voice laced with disbelief. His other hand moved swiftly, grabbing the biker's wrist and twisting it just enough to send a sharp jolt of pain through his arm. The biker winced, gritting his teeth. Jake wasn't the type to resort to unnecessary violence, but he also wasn't about to let this slide. He leaned in slightly, his voice dropping to a dangerous whisper. "I've spent years raising this horse. I know its moods, its fears, and its trust. And you think you can walk onto my land and hurt it just because it amuses you?" The biker swallowed hard, sweat beginning to bead on his forehead. He had been in fights before, but this was different. This wasn't some bar brawl or street scuffle. This was a man who carried real authority, a man who didn't need to shout or throw punches to make his point clear. Jake held his grip for a moment longer before finally shoving the biker backward. The man stumbled, barely catching his balance before looking up at the rancher with wide eyes. "Let me give you some advice," Jake said, his voice calm but firm. "A real man doesn't hurt animals for fun. A real man protects them. And if I ever see you near my horse again, you'll regret it." The biker, now pale and shaken, nodded quickly. Yeah, got it," he muttered, taking a step back. Jake didn't say another word. He simply stood there, arms crossed, watching as the biker hurried to his motorcycle. The man fumbled with the ignition, his hands unsteady, before finally revving the engine and speeding off down the dusty road, a trail of dirt kicking up behind him. As the roar of the bike faded into the distance, Jake turned back to his Mustang. The horse was still tense, its ears flicking back in lingering fear. Jake stepped forward, placing a reassuring hand on its neck. "It's all right, boy," he murmured. "He's gone." The Mustang let out a soft huff, as if understanding his owner's words. Slowly, it relaxed under Jake's touch, the fear in its eyes fading. Jake sighed, giving the horse one last pat before looking out toward the horizon. Trouble would always come in different forms, but as long as he was there, his animals would never have to face it alone. The biker, who had just moments ago been laughing at the Mustang's pain, now found himself in a situation he had never expected. His usual arrogance had vanished, replaced by a sinking feeling in his gut. His heart pounded as he stood face to face with Jake, the rancher whose mere presence radiated authority and controlled fury. Jake's piercing eyes locked onto him, unyielding and fierce. The firm grip on his collar had sent a clear message. This was not a man to be messed with. The biker had encountered tough guys before, but there was something different about Jake. He wasn't shouting, he wasn't throwing wild punches. He didn't need to. His quiet strength, his unwavering stare, and the way he had effortlessly overpowered him made the biker realize that he had made a grave mistake. His mouth felt dry as he tried to find the right words. "Look, man, I didn't mean anything by it," he muttered, his voice lacking the confidence it had held just minutes ago. Jake didn't flinch. His grip tightened slightly before he finally let go, shoving the biker backward. The force wasn't violent, but it was enough to make the man stumble, his boots kicking up dust as he struggled to maintain balance. He quickly straightened up, but his body betrayed him. His hands trembled slightly, his breathing was uneven, and he could feel the weight of humiliation pressing down on him. For the first time in a long time, he wasn't the one in control. Jake took a slow step forward, his movements deliberate. "You think you can just go around hurting animals for fun?" he asked, his voice calm but deadly serious. "Not here. Not while I'm watching." The biker swallowed hard, his gaze darting from Jake to the Mustang, which was now standing beside its owner, watching with intelligent eyes. It was as if the horse itself understood that justice had been served. He knew he had to get out of there. Staying any longer would only make things worse. Without another word, he turned on his heel and made a beeline for his motorcycle. His hands fumbled as he reached for the handlebars, his mind racing. He had walked onto this ranch thinking he could do whatever he pleased, but now he was leaving with a bruised ego and a lesson he wouldn't soon forget. The engine roared to life as he revved it aggressively, as if trying to regain some of the dominance he had just lost. But even as he gripped the throttle and sped away, the weight of Jake's glare still lingered. He could feel it burning into his back, a silent warning that if he ever returned, the consequences would be far worse. As the biker rode away, his knuckles white against the handlebars, he exhaled sharply. His mind replayed the confrontation over and over, each second reminding him of how quickly his smugness had been stripped away. He had faced many challenges in his life, but never had he been put in his place so swiftly, and without a single unnecessary punch thrown. He glanced once in the rearview mirror, catching a final glimpse of the ranch. Jake was still standing there, arms crossed, unmoving like a guardian of his land. The Mustang stood beside him, no longer afraid but calm, secure in the presence of its protector. Humiliated and shaken, the biker pressed the gas and disappeared into the distance, fully aware that today he had messed with the wrong man.